Hey, wait a minute. This? Wait a minute. You see all the ETV stuff? Here's me. You recognize me, Tom Albano, but that was you saw an ETV Sports logo, but this isn't ETV Sports. That wasn't the music. This isn't the color. It's not traditionally black. It's usually red. What's going on here? Well, I'm taking over. Not a complete takeover, but this is going to be a little taste of something a little different. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Tom Albano. I'm a contributor at Fanside MMA, and I am the co-host of Empty the Bench here on the Empty the Bench podcast network. And this is a special UFC 277 post-show live stream. Just going to be sharing my thoughts on all the happenings that went down at UFC 277, and just doing this to promote a little bit of this. So, MMA Outsiders, myself, and Sam Bondo. It is premiering. It is going to be episode 0 this coming Wednesday, August 3rd, 9 a.m. Eastern. We were scheduled to go last week. For those of you who constantly tune into the ETV network, we were scheduled to go back this past week. Some circumstances happened. I don't want to get into that. Basically, we had to push back a week. So we are going to have our premiere, our pilot, as it said on the logo, our episode 0 this coming Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern. And then following that, the next week, we will be on our normal schedule. We will be in full-fledged show mode. But until then, we're going to be working out some kinks. We're going to be talking some stuff, getting you all introduced to this program. And so let's start that off with a little bit of talk about this card that went down tonight in Dallas, Texas. So obviously the top story coming out of it, Amanda Nunes is once again the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion of the World, defeating Julianna Pena in let's say a pretty one-sided unanimous decision. Amanda Nunes actually makes history. She continues to make history. Yes, she gets her revenge. She gets her belt back. She gets the women's bantamweight title back. She is a champ again. She is the double division champion again. And she is the first UFC fighter now, male or female, to lose champ status and regain champ status. And I believe she's now also the first 2-time women's bantamweight champion, because she's held that title since she had held that title since UFC 200 when she submitted Miesha Tate. Obviously, later that year, sent Ronda Rousey packing out of the UFC. Held that belt since, became the champ by knocking out Chris Cyborg, captured the featherweight title. Obviously, featherweight's not exactly a stacked class, would you say, in the UFC? That might even be an overstatement on my part. But of course, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history, rather, took place back in December. UFC 269, Julianna Pena comes in and pretty much wrecks Amanda Nunes. Again, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. Pretty much came at her with all sorts of pressure and tired Nunes out to the point where she was able to submit Nunes. And prior to that, Nunes had not been submitted since her professional MMA debut back in 2008, like March 2008, I think it was, when I was doing the research for this. But this fight in general, so I was just covering this for Fansided. And again, first of all, you have the history run of Amanda Nunes that makes things, just as actually greater than just her recapturing the bantamweight championship. Started very slow at first. I thought it was going to be a little more quick pace of a fight. I thought maybe Amanda was going to come in there and just start wailing on Julianna to try to get her out in the first couple of rounds. I thought maybe Julianna was going to try and do the strategy she did at UFC 269, where she would fight Nunes in close and constantly bring pressure, try to tire her out. But no, we had a lot of trading in the first round. Nunes scoring the better shots. Then Nunes dropped Pena in the second round. And from there, it was just pretty much Nunes just having her way. I thought that second round, 2 or 3 knockdowns. I thought that was going to be it. I thought Amanda Nunes was going to take it there, and everything was going to end at about 12:20, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Obviously did not happen. And Pena, despite she lost in the scorecards 50-45, 50-44, 50-43. So you have Nunes winning all rounds on all scorecards, one judge giving one 10-8 round, and one judge giving two 10-8 rounds. I don't know about two 10-8 rounds. I definitely think that second round was a 10-8 when Nunes dropped Pena quite a few times. Sorry, I got a little distracted here. A little weird pop-up just happened. But basically, Pena, as I was saying, she got swept on the scorecards, but she never got finished. Like, it looked like time and time again, there was going to be a point where she was going to be finished, but she ends up not being stopped this whole time and actually has a couple of scares of her own. So she gets busted open in the third round. It's complete domination. They go into the fourth round, but then all of a sudden, Pena, very early on, pulls off an armbar attempt. Nunes escapes to try to get one of her own, and then gets her legs. Pena gets her legs around the neck of Nunes, trying to choke her with her legs. And Nunes was able to get away with it, but Pena then nearly traps her in armbar again, and it's just Nunes won the round. But those desperation attempts that you saw by Pena, like if Nunes had made one mistake, that could have been her end. And again, it's just so weird. It's so weird because Nunes just seemed to go down with Pena. Like they were laughing on the commentary, like Nunes wants to be in the danger and she doesn't mind the danger, that she's enjoying the fight. But man, there were a couple of scares there where basically we could have said, Amanda just cost herself the fight. And Nunes was a little tired. I could see Nunes being tired at the end of that fourth round. And then Pena took Nunes down again in the fifth, tried to get another triangle armbar. Nunes got out of it and then took Pena down. But then Nunes actually gets the last submission attempt of the fight, going for that rear naked choke. So all in all, I got to give credit to Pena where it's due. She pulled off that upset in the first fight. She showed all the heart and grit and determination in the second fight, but it wasn't enough. Amanda Nunes, still the women's featherweight GOAT. Still now, once again, the champ, once against the bantamweight champion. And now comes the question of what is next? It's 1-1. Do you do a trilogy fight? Do you do a trilogy fight, but instead you do it at featherweight? When was even the last time the featherweight championship was defended? I'm going to look that up. Because I know, like I said before, featherweight, not exactly a real weight class when it comes to the UFC in terms of the women, because it's just Amanda Nunes and then whatever challenger they can find for her. Whether it's somebody on the UFC roster that they'll just bump up in weight like a Holly Holm, or they bring somebody from another promotion like a Megan Anderson or a Tanya Evinger. Obviously, Tanya Evinger was a Chris Cyborg opponent, but that championship was made when the UFC had Chris Cyborg, and Chris Cyborg never cut down to 135 constantly. 2 fights she had the 140, and another that's been just featherweight for her. Felicia Spencer was another challenger. So it was that Megan Anderson fight in UFC 259 in March of 2021 was the last time that featherweight title was defended. So maybe they get the idea of, let's give this other championship some motion, if you will, and let's have it on the line. Maybe they say that. Maybe they say, this was a one-sided ass beat and that first time was an upset. Maybe we don't do the trilogy fight. But then what's next for Amanda Nunes? For the longest time, I've been saying that maybe the Shevchenko-Nunes trilogy, but it just never seemed like the UFC has wanted to do that. So you look at the UFC rankings now. Waiting for that to pull up. Okay, you look at the UFC rankings now with women's bantamweight. There's Ketlin Vieira. Holly Holm is number 3, but I don't know if I want to see another Nunes Holm fight. Irene Aldana is number 4. That could be different. You could have Vieira or Aldana instead fighting Nunes next. Probably be likely one of those two next, and in my opinion, that's one of the two. One of those two is who I would want to see next. But overall, congratulations to Amanda Nunes on recapturing her championship. Co-main event of the evening also had a championship on the line. Brandon Moreno he's UFC champion again. This time, of course, on the interim level. Level. He's the interim flyweight champion. He beats Kai Kara France in a pretty entertaining fight. Again, this is actually like the Pena fight. I got to give credit to the other person. I have to give credit to Kara France in this situation. I have to give credit to Kai Kara France in this situation. He had a strategy. He tried to bring it, but Brandon Moreno's pressure was just too much. Brandon Moreno, he went out with his striking very early on. He went first couple of rounds. I'd say the first round a little closer, but the second round definitely Moreno. And then in the third round, just lands a body shot, and Kara France has a little delayed reaction, but he ends up folding. It's too much for him. Moreno shuts him down. Moreno is the interim flyweight champion, which means we're probably getting a fourth fight with Deiveson Figueiredo. Yes, the rare fourth fight now is probably going to be happening. Obviously, those two had a hell of a clash at the end of 2020. And then Brandon Moreno makes history when they meet about half a year later, becomes UFC flyweight champion. We tell about his story going from getting cut from the UFC when the UFC was trying to basically, cut out the flyweight division, and then rose up to the champion level. And then, of course, back in January, they have their third fight, their trilogy fight. Figueiredo wins the belt back. Little controversial decision. Little close between those two. I will say, though, it was very nice today to see Moreno and Figueiredo. They met in the octagon afterwards on the post-fight interview, and they greeted one another. They were respectful to one another. I know people like to see the intensity of a rivalry. They like to see, all the trash talk and stuff. But it was a very different feel, and it was actually kind of a nice feel to see the two of them respect one another and then agree pretty much end of the year we will finally get this little rematch, the fourth match, third rematch going. Obviously, Deiveson Figueiredo, for those of you unaware, basically suffered some sort of hand injury, according to my research, back in February and March. So he was unable to do a immediate championship fight. Thus, we had Moreno facing Kai Kara France tonight for the interim title. Okay, let's talk about probably the most controversial result of the evening. It's funny, we were in Texas, in Dallas. UFC 277 was in Dallas. You know what we say about the Texas commissions? A lot of controversial decisions. But the most controversial moment of the night wasn't exactly with the judges, it was with a referee. So, Dan Miragliotta was the referee for Sergey Pavlovich versus Derek Lewis. Pavlovich gets a pretty quick knockout of Derek Lewis, the home state boy. Derek Lewis, of course, from Texas. Gets it done in 55 seconds. They don't even make it to the full minute mark. But it was a little weird. So, I even mentioned this on Twitter, not going to lie. Derek Lewis, he got rocked. He was basically dazed. He had to fight his way back, and Pavlovich was just landing it on him. But the moment of controversy came as Sergey maybe wasn't landing all of his shots cleanly, but a couple of shots late pretty much caused Lewis to face plant, but ended up getting up pretty quickly. But in the time between the face plant and the, getting back, starting to make his way back up, like that little half second, 1 second in between, Miragliotta waved off the fight. It's tough. And it's one that I even have to think on. Trying to pay attention to the other two championship fights that happened afterwards. Couldn't really think on this one all too much. And it's tough because on one hand, For those of you who know Dan Miragliotta, he lets fights go on. He tries to give a fighter every opportunity to get back in the fight. And yeah, you say maybe he jumped the gun a little too quick, pulled the trigger a little too quick, because Lewis was back on his feet and was complaining to Miragliotta afterwards. You heard the crowd booing. You heard the chants of "this ref sucks." But on the flip, face planting, for those of you unaware, that's kind of a universal, you can't do it. Like when you see a fighter face plant, you see with these referees, you see, it's like, it's the oh shit moment. It's like, no, 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 you're done, you're done, you're done. And Lewis on the foot, he face plants. So, it's a very quick thing, but the fact that it's a face plant, I don't know. So I don't know where you go from here. Do you force these two to run it back? Do we try other plans? It's, to credit Sergey, it's a huge victory over Derek Lewis, but the fact that Derek Lewis was able to get up so quickly, I don't know. I got to think on this one even more. Alexander Pantoja, he got it done right away against Alex Perez. Kind of actually like Brandon Moreno, he went in pretty quickly with his offense, with his pressure, and ends up getting the back. He ends up trying to get to the back while standing and getting the choke while standing, which is actually pretty talented for Alexander Pantoja, who entered this fight, I believe, at number 4 in the flyweight rankings. So maybe he sets himself in line for the winner of Figueiredo versus Moreno 4. Maybe Pantoja needs one more fight, and maybe if he wins that next fight, he's guaranteed the winner of that. So that should be an interesting situation to watch out for. Magomed Ankalaev, second round TKO. I mean, that one was just all Ankalaev. I was worried about Smith coming into this fight because Ankalaev is a scary striker, and he has proved it. And he is calling for a title shot. I don't know what the UFC's plan is right now for light heavyweight. I believe they're looking to do a rematch of that epic Jiri Glover Teixeira fight later in this year. So maybe Ankalaev tries for one more fight, and if he wins that fight, he'll get the winner of the Jiri Glover rematch. So Ankalaev, I know he was calling for the title shot. I know he was at 4 or 5, but I think maybe one more. And then Anthony Smith, I'm hoping for the best. He was saying either his leg or his ankle was broken. So I'm hoping for the best one for him. But it's pretty clear he's either got some work to do to get to, on this road back, because he has rebounded. He was a journeyman and ended up coming back. And he was a journeyman and ended up, putting a little momentum in his career to get a late career championship match against John Jones, which he could have won but didn't take the DQ. And incredible character on Anthony Smith. But it's pretty clear with his most recent fights, the Anthony Smith who challenged John Jones isn't exactly there anymore. He's 34. He could still have a couple of years left, but I don't know. I don't know if everything is just past him at this point, but right now I'm just hoping for the best with his injury. Prelims, in my opinion, are a little iffy. I think your best performances are obviously the guys who got the finishes. Drew Dober. Drew Dober had an incredible knockout, kind of like Moreno, where basically it was a little delayed reaction. He had a delayed reaction when he landed a shot on Rafael Alves, actually more here, solar plexus. It was a little weird, but credit to Dober. He's an incredibly talented guy competing in one of the hardest divisions in MMA right now, in the lightweight division. Hamdi Abdel Wahab. Gonna take me a little bit to get that pronunciation, but Hamdi, first Egyptian UFC fighter, put on a hell of a show against Dontel Mays. I got very worried because that stand up towards the end of round 3. Just no. I don't know what they were calling there, what the referee was calling there about standing up, because Hamdi did have Dontel up against the cage. He was working. I don't know why they did that stand up, and I got worried. I said, this is where the Texas Commission is going to go in. This is where one of the judges is going to screw it up. And they actually, because Dontel Mays actually ended up getting a few clean, good shots in on Handy right before the final horn of that fight. And of course, one of the judges ends up giving that third round to Dontel Mays, pardon me. So wasn't exactly sure on that one. I got scared, but I said, no, Handy needs this win. Incredible performance. Incredible to him. He gets the split decision win. Alex Moreno, pretty good win against Matthew Smellisberger. Drakkar Close, Rafa Garcia, decent fight. Got to give credit also to Michael Morales, insane knockout against Adam Fugit, and Nicole Negumerano, scoring a second round TKO himself in the early prelims. So that's all I really wanted to do, just talk for 20 minutes about the card. And again, just wanted to thank you all for tuning in, hear my thoughts, and don't forget, MMA Outsiders, Episode 0. Myself, Zan Bondo. Zan I've worked with at Fansided. Incredible guy, very smart when it comes to MMA and actually college sports as well. Can't wait for Zan to join me. Can't wait to take you all on the journey of, reviewing cards, previewing upcoming cards, doing best bets and all that, and breaking down all the big MMA news in each week. So, Episode 0, the premiere, the pilot, whatever you want to call it, this Wednesday, August 3rd, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and then we will slide, it's an Episode 0, it's a way for us to get some kinks out and, make sure we're all good, and then next week, the week after, a full premiere will launch. So, with that, I'm Tom Albano. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. You can actually see me this coming Wednesday with the premiere of the MMA Outsiders, as well, of course, Empty the Bench episode 146. You can follow me on social media. You see actually scrolling across the bottom there. You can see social media. You can follow me on Twitter at TomTalkSports9. You can make sure to follow the Empty the Bench Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at ETB Network. And a big thank you to Knack, who is always sponsoring us. Here's my Knack Bag. Of course, the Knack Sling Bag is the big thing they're offering right now. Free shipping, FREE shipping, if you use the code in the description. And also, make sure to follow the upcoming MMA Outsider show on social media at MMA Outsiders ETB, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So that is actually going to do it for me for real this time. I'm Tom Albano. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Have a good night.